Hi, this is Martin, and what I'd like to do today is there is a gentleman who lived about a century ago. His name is Pier Giorgio Frassati. The spelling is Frassati. We all know about Carlo Acutis, or most people do, about his delving into the Eucharistic miracles and tabulating all of them that took place over the years, and was known as a bit of a computer genius in his lifetime. But Carlo Acutis came in the 90s and died in, I think it was 2004 or 5. Pier Giorgio lived from 1901 to 1925, just a short life. Very, very unusual guy. But a little bit about his interests and activities. I should mention that I've gotten a lot of this information from a United States website entitled Frassati USA. That's Frassati USA. So Pier Giorgio once wrote that we should never just exist, but actually live. Although his life was short, it was packed full of interests and activities, from the mundane to the sublime. He engaged in so many areas of athletics, including swimming, sailing, skiing, hiking, mountain climbing, biking, fencing, ice skating, horseback riding. He studied agriculture and mining engineering. He took piano and dance lessons and loved to sing, although a lot of his associates said that he was often out of tune. He could recite poetry and long passages from Dante. He translated books from Latin to Italian. He was a meticulous collector. He spoke many languages. He loved the opera, theater, and art museums. He traveled extensively and enjoyed photography. He could be loud and boisterous or deafeningly reverent. He was at home with the homeless on the streets, as well as members of the highest classes in the embassy ballroom. He had a rich sense of humor and a limitless love for God, his church, his country, and his fellow man. Pier Giorgio was born in Turin, Italy, in 1901. His mother was Adelaide Armitis. She was a pretty well-renowned painter. His father, Alfredo, was the founder and director of a very popular newspaper called La Stampa, Stampa, and was influential in Italian politics, holding positions as an Italian senator and ambassador to Germany. Pier Giorgio developed a deep spiritual life which he never hesitated to share with his friends. The Holy Eucharist and the Blessed Virgin were the two main poles of his world of prayer. At the age of 17, he joined the St. Vincent de Paul Society and dedicated much of his spare time to serving the sick and the needy, caring for orphans, and assisting the demobilized servicemen returning from World War I. Pier Giorgio gave to help the poor. When in school, he was using his bus fare money to help the poor, and then running home to be on time for meals. The poor and the suffering were his masters, and he was literally their servant, which he considered a privilege. His charity did not simply involve giving something to others, but giving completely of himself. This was fed by the communion with Christ in the Holy Eucharist and by frequent nocturnal adoration, by meditation on St. Paul's beautiful passage, The Gift of Love, which can be found in 1 Corinthians, the whole chapter 13, Faith, Hope, and Charity, but the greatest is love, and by the writings of Catherine of Siena. He often sacrificed vacations at the Frassati summer home outside of Turin because, as he said, if everybody leaves Turin, who will take care of the poor? It's also noted that his father oftentimes gave him first-class fare money when he was traveling on trains, but Pier Giorgio went instead third class. His friends would ask him, why are you going third class? He said, because there's no fourth class. So it's kind of interesting. At his funeral, it was basically an incredible triumph. The streets of the city of Turin were lined with thousands of mourners who were unknown to his family. They were totally surprised. The poor and the needy whom he had unselfishly served for many, many years. Many of these people in turn were surprised to learn that this young man they knew had actually been the heir of the influential Frassati family. It's noted that he had a love affair for a gal by the name of Laura Hidalgo. Every biographer kind of mentions it, but they all have different stories about it. She was about 3 years older and was studying mathematics. Her parents died when she was a teenager, and it fell on her to care for her younger brother. In the spring of 1923, during the Italian Carnevale holidays, similar to our pre-Lenten Mardi Gras, Pier Giorgio encountered Laura at Little Bernard, where he would go for good skiing. Laura was a member of the Catholic Female University Students Club called Gaetano Agnesi. She joined a group that he had created, and she was a member of it. It was kind of like an inner circle, and it's called the Tipi Loschi group. What that really means is the shady characters, or the sinister ones. He finally brought her around to the family, and they had a wonderful meeting with the mother and his sister. But he ultimately wanted not to take a chance because the parents were on the verge of separation, and this would be another great concern for Pier Giorgio. He did not want to introduce another issue that would provide even more discord and family drama. So he put the relationship on the sideline and gave precedence to the family situation. But in letters, he wrote to his friends, "She in whom I loved is a pure love, and today, in renouncing it, I desire her happiness. I urge you to pray that God give me the Christian strength to bear it serenely, and that he give her all earthly happiness, and to reach the God for which we were created." So I just mentioned the Tipi Loschi Society. And this is something that Pier Giorgio created. The society was a group founded by him in 1924. It consisted of a few of his close friends, both men and women, and the primary activity was the organization of hikes or mountain climbing excursions or other such outings. This is all in jest. The name of the group reflected the humorous nature of its existence. Tipi Loschi can be translated to mean swindlers and swindlerettes, or shady characters, or sinister ones. Pier Giorgio went so far as to type up a formal statute for the group. The document was written rather tongue-in-cheek and filled with inside jokes. For example, the group motto was "Few, but good, like macaroni." The patron saint was completely fictional, Saint Pece, P-E-C-E, of the Fools. Members were forbidden to do silly things like import pepper and certain insects. He had a nickname for just about everyone in the group. For example, after his friend Ernestina took a trip to England, he began calling her Anglicina. Because his friend Franz liked to dress stylishly, he nicknamed him Petronius, referring to Gaius Petronius, the judge of excellence for the Roman Emperor Nero. Pier Giorgio was given the name Robespierre by his best friend Marco, a name based on a key figure during the Reign of Terror in France. He loved to do practical jokes, so this group was really intended. Despite all the playfulness surrounding the group, there was an underlying serious aspect to it. Pier Giorgio primarily formed the group knowing that his friends were starting to go their separate ways as they were finishing college, marrying, beginning careers. His desire was that they would form a permanent bond through union and prayer and be a source of mutual spiritual support for one another as they met the daily challenges of life. In a very real sense, every group named for Frassati today is a fulfillment of his desire. He loved to play practical jokes, the usual pranks such as short sheeting the beds of his friends or priests when they would be on retreat, or when Pier Giorgio was with his friends, he would sometimes wake them up with a toy trumpet and take them, when they were on retreat, take them to a very out-of-the-way churches for Mass. His sense of humor was evident at school as well. Once during an exam, he arranged for a custodian to deliver a mysterious package to the professor. The package began to drip. It was full of ice cream. A priest who knew him said he was infused with a constant joy that was sometimes explosive, and he surpassed just about everyone with his bottomless bag of many pranks. So I hope you enjoy just learning a little bit more about Pier Giorgio Frassati. As I mentioned at the very beginning, August 3rd of 2025, he will be canonized. So I thank you very, very much for listening and taking the time. And until the next time, farewell.